Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? Muchas gracias a los que se unen. Hoy tengo el placer de charlar con Stephanie. Es una profesora a ver, de Canadá. Me estoy anotando el nombre para invitarla aquí. Y bueno, nos va a contar un poquito sobre su práctica, su experiencia en yoga. Ahí la invitamos. Lo que sí va a ser en inglés. Empecé hablando en español, pero va a ser en inglés. Vamos a ver eh, si Stephanie se une. Mm, Acá.
Hi there.
Ah, you're here. Fine, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was actually checking. I said, well, I lost her. Nice to see you,
I
Steffi.
made it. And
Yeah.
I think Banjo's coming to say hello. Oh, look
Ah,
at his
okay.
nose.
Hi. My two are here. You can see them there. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Having their siesta with a view.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yes. So a
Thank you so
pleasure,
much for
actually.
inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you accepted it because I really wanted to have this conversation with you for a long time. Really, I've been following you through Instagram for many years. So sometimes I feel like I already know the people, even if we have
I,
never met
yeah,
in person.
in some ways, I feel like we've practiced together many times. I enjoy all
Yes.
of your posts and presentations of the different poses. Yeah, it's kind of a fun aspect on
Yeah, I
social.
kind of feel the same with you. Yeah, and with others, yes. But I really, and I was telling you, I admire your practice and your generosity when you are sharing all those tips that many times have helped me a lot to approach an asana or certain action that I still not have very clear. But anyway, for the ones that don't have the pleasure to know you, what can we know about you?
Um, my name's Stephanie Tencer, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I'm a certified Iyengar Yoga teacher. I'm extremely passionate about yoga, and I have a small studio called Studio Po. Sometimes people ask me about the name PO. What is Studio Po? And I like to just point out that there are a lot of fun PO words like power, possibility, potential, pose, poetry. And at our studio and in my personal practice and in practice in general, we like to incorporate all of that
I love it.
on the mat.
Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, never thought about it, but I love it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically who I am. Um,
Okay. Stephanie, how did yoga came into your life?
Okay, so yoga came into my life, I would say not, it wasn't like there was like a natural interest in yoga or even in physical kind of practices in general. I was quite ac academic, I guess, growing up, and I definitely gravitated a little bit more towards some artsy things as opposed to sports or anything like that, fitness stuff. But at a pretty young age, in my teens, I had quite a lot of back pain, which was really unusual for a young person. And as I got older, in my 20s or whatnot, it got debilitating, like to the point of pretty much putting my life on hold. And
Oh,
so when that would happen, I would try rehab, like different kinds of rehabilitation to get better.
hmm.
And it would help, and then I would fall apart again, and try different things. And so we looked at surgery as an option, but nobody wants to operate on a young person. And I mean, I was otherwise healthy, so everyone thought that I could get better. But years and years of very, very intense pain. And I don't know, for those of, for you or for whoever's watching, if you know about back problems, they usually come in combination, right? You usually don't just have
Mm,
one issue, there's many issues together. So I had all sorts of things going on. And eventually I had surgery. And after the surgery, the my surgeon said, like, you have to do something. You have to do physio or yoga or Pilates or something as part of your rehab. And just before I decided to have the surgery, I had tried Iyengar yoga.
okay.
And it was completely a fluke. Like my husband, well, at the time my boyfriend's aunt, was practicing with a teacher here in the city, and she knew that I'm always trying something, like something to help me with my body, with my back. And she said, my teacher, she seems to know a lot about the body. Maybe it's something you want to try. So I
Mm,
tried it, and I, like, literally from the minute I tried it, the first minute, it clicked. It was something special. It was not like anything else I had done. And at the time, I really appreciated that I could be around other people who were healthy and, doing yoga for whatever reasons they were doing yoga, but I could participate with them and modify my poses as needed.
yeah.
I felt super safe. I felt like the teacher had an eye on me and could help me if I needed help. And I loved the fact that there could be 20 people in the room and, like, maybe not 20, but like 10 different ways of doing Utthita Trikonasana. I mean,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
that kind of thing. And I found it just thrilling, thrilling. And yeah, and so I did end up having the surgery, and I continued on with my yoga practice. And funny enough, it didn't, it didn't make me feel better right away. I had it was a really serious issue that lasted for a long time, and
Mm,
but what I did get from my yoga practice that I didn't get from any of the other therapies that I tried, and that was quite, like, instant, was antidepressant benefits. Like, it just lifted my spirits right away. And so it made me want to keep doing it. And even though I wasn't seeing a reduction in pain right away, I really felt like I just kept pouring in the practices, like kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. And then eventually I had put in, I guess, like, enough work. This is how I sort of visualize it. I'd put in enough work that then the benefits really started coming, and then I started to feel better, and like, it snowballed, and it kind of ever since, like, I don't really feel like I've plateaued. I'm always still continuing to rebuild
mm,
my spine, my structure, my muscles, whatever, like, get everything so that I don't have pain all the time. And yeah, when something is so transformative, I mean, I really feel like it gave me my life back. It 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 well, A, keeps you motivated to practice, and B, I feel forever indebted and grateful to the
yeah.
practice, to my teachers, to um yeah, yeah.
I'm actually in shock, okay, that you have a spine surgery and seeing your practice. So that
Mm.
talks a lot about the wonders of yoga and also your own practice, no? And I was wondering, you say that was like kind of antidepressant, okay? That you were feeling happy even if the pain wasn't going that fast and you take time to recover. What was about the practice that give you that scene of happiness, and
Mm.
what was it?
Um, that's an interesting question. You know, I think, just, given my like, knowing my own personality, I think that there was something really empowering about the fact that I could modify the poses for me. Like, even I guess it would be easy for somebody to be like, I don't want to modify, like, to understand it as kind of a lesser than presentation. But to me, it felt so empowering. I can do it. I can do it with my feet apart. I can do it with a belt on. I can do it with a chair. And it kind of gave me power back. Like, I didn't feel
Yeah,
I was empowered. The yoga empowered me, and essentially it gave me hope. It gave me hope. And at that time, I mean, I say with gratitude that that period of my life is seeming more and more far, further away, but it leaves its impact. And I do remember, like, at that time, you just, when you go to bed in pain, you wake up in pain. You go to bed in pain, you wake up in pain. There is the despair, and you're young and you're like, what is my future? All these things that just come up. And so to have something that I could turn to that gave me um, a semblance of power. I really think that's what it is, of self-control, feeling empowered. And then on top of that, and this is what, feeds me a little bit more now, is I think like some of the physiological benefits. I mean, going into Ardha Halasana eventually, or Chair Sarvangasana, hanging Shirshasana. I mean, some of these asanas where the yoga does you, like, you don't have to do
Mm.
much. And then you get the benefits of it. It quiets your mind, it uplifts your spirit, whatever it is. um I really, like I said before, I hadn't done a lot of physical type practices, aside from rehabbing my back. And so I just, like, I kind of didn't know the joy of what was possible from moving your body and kind of those kinds of effects.
Yes, yes, yes. And I was thinking on possibilities, no? That actually something that may make you happy when you are going through a struggle like that, no? It is that the practice open a world of possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, everything is possible. Okay, you still have to do the work. You still have to go through the pain, through the learning process. Uh, be patient and just have faith, but the possibilities, that's enough. And also be humble, that I say, okay, this is my path, and at the end everything is a present.
Yeah.
It's a gift from the universe, even if we think that it is not, that it is actually we are being cursed, and it's not, because brought you into yoga. And actually, what later inspired you to become a yoga teacher?
um so in my previous life, pre-yoga, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
I had gone to graduate school for city planning and urban design. So that, and I was really passionate about that. So I was really interested in like the walkability of cities and public space design. And I mean, I didn't have any skills in terms of architecture, but I appreciated architecture. And so I went to school for that. And when my graduate studies, I moved to California for school, and I went hardcore. It's kind of my nature, I guess. Once I find something I love, I like to go deep, and I really got, went into it. I was at a great school where I got to study with some of professors who I really admired. And long story short is I fell apart. I mean, my body fell apart because, I had these back issues, and I'm over a drafting table. We're doing design stuff, computer work, all sorts of things. And by the time I came back from graduate school, I literally, like, I had to just put my life on hold and get better, like, get my back better, put myself back together. And so that's when yoga and all that, everything started to come into the picture. And I tried to, like, once I started making progress and getting better, I did some consulting. And every time I would go back to work, I would fall apart again. Like, it was like I really wanted to work, and then yoga would be on the side. But the hours and the type of work, sitting was one of the most difficult
Mm.
postures. It was just like I couldn't deny it after X amount of times of like trying and then finding myself in trouble again. I really couldn't deny it. And I just said to myself, like, why am I fighting this? Like, yoga gives me so much joy. It makes me feel good. Why don't I just go with that?
Mm.
Like, why don't I just give it all I've got? I'm clearly passionate about it. And so I made that was sort of a shift in my mind, and that's when I decided to pursue teacher
Training.
training, development
Mm.
as a teacher. Um, and yeah, it, it now I can't imagine any other way. I mean, now it feels right, it feels good, and to what you said before, like, I wouldn't wish my trajectory on anybody else, but I know that it has made me the teacher that I am today, and it really informs how I relate to other people
And
and how I communicate my experience of the asanas and share it with others. And yeah, so it all kind of makes sense now in hindsight.
you have been teaching for how many years already?
I got my first certification at the like 2011, twenty
Okay.
twelve. I
Mm.
think early 2012.
And
Um,
I'm asking you this, okay, for many years, yeah, more than 11, 12, 14 years, more or less, no? Okay, my mathematics at this time, after lunch, like this. But anyway,
don't ask me
doesn't
either.
matter, no. That is, no, it is, what, what will the teacher of today will tell the teacher that started in 2011 or a bit later, or a bit
Mm,
earlier?
hmm. Like
After
what I would tell
going
myself,
through,
like myself as a
yes,
younger
after
teacher.
going all, yes, after going all that path that you have been going and still going, what will you tell that started so
Mm,
many years ago with
hmm.
expectations or not, with fears, with wishes, with whatever? Has something
Yeah,
changed in that Stephanie of 2011, let's call it?
absolutely. Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
many things changed,
definitely. Lots of changes for sure.
mm,
Uh I see a
but
lot of um so like I I've been feeling
mm,
lately that there's been a real shift in my own personal practice. I mean, I definitely started out practicing for physical benefit, right? Because I was practicing as if my life depended on it. I
mm,
was practicing to get out of pain. And so that type of kind of really narrow focus with practice taught me a lot. I mean, it taught me a lot about my body, it taught me a lot about the asanas, and it also gave me a good foundation in terms of learning how to use the props and do that, modify and adjust according to specifics of
mm.
myself. Um, and, I think as a junior teacher, the the challenge is teaching from your experience, right? Like, you don't want to just memorize 3 points and tell someone generically, but you want to translate your own experience and share it in some way that's meaningful to the people who you're teaching. Um, but I think it took me I, I was gonna say took me a long time, but actually I think it's taken me the exact right amount of time. Like, these things do take time. It's not something that can happen quickly to sort of understand the mechanics and the rules in quotations of asana, or at least of the Iyengar method, the way that we approach our asanas specifically, to then, like, know how to break the rules in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that I started practicing for physical benefit, and so those kinds of rules, sequencing rules and alignment rules, like all that stuff was really, really important and served me really, really well. Like I said, it taught me a lot, and I really benefited from it. But now I find what I'm really benefiting from, and I see as an evolution in my personal practice and as a consequence in my teaching is just learning how to be creative and learning how to kind of flourish and, challenge certain things, compare certain things, not be so rigid.
Mm,
Um, and although I do need to teach from my own experience, I at this point I've seen so much more variety of bodies. I've been
mm,
with so many
mm.
that I can, even if it's not always in my lived experience, I can still teach and share. You know, uh, I like to. I'm only 5 feet tall, right? So when I teach somebody who's very tall with very long legs, they have a different kind of body, a different kind
Yes.
of torso, different proportions, and so it's interesting to evolve and learn. Like I kind of feel like I can put myself in their bodies now and have that experience and be able to learn from that.
So you
Uh,
will tell that enjoy the process. You are going to learn a lot
Sorry.
to that. I mean, remember the question was what the teacher of today will tell the teacher of yesterday, the one that started. So based on all that, what will you tell her?
You're just getting started. Like,
Okay.
yeah, like there's just the
Have
learning
fun.
never stops. Yeah, the learning
Yes,
never stops. I think, yeah, I rambled a little bit there, but I think that's the gist of it, right? The learning really never stops.
never. No, no, no. It is amazing. Um, has has what has changed in your personal practice with the objectives that one is having? Okay, I'm talking from my side. Okay, you see, you can relate or not, but what has changed from when someone start on this path of training, teacher training, becoming a teacher? Uh, there is this personal practice with certain objectives, and now a mature teacher with some years that could be undergoing training or not, that is different. But what has changed in your personal practice? I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
clear
I
what
get
I'm saying.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think there's a distinction between, you know, practicing to do the poses and learn how to do the poses well. So, there's always some fun asanas that, at the beginning I really wanted to do headstand and headstand was hard. Shirshasana was difficult. So I would practice to do those poses, right? Want to be able to lift up into full arm balance or lift up into Urdhva Dhanurasana. So what I would kind of think about, okay, well, what do I need to practice to get better at those particular poses? And I would want to have a practice that looked clean, that looked strong and like I'm doing the poses well. And now, I don't know. I think like sometimes I feel like if I'm in a room practicing with colleagues or something, if I let my self-consciousness, if I get self-conscious in front of other people, because I think I practice messy. Now I practice messy. I practice messy on purpose because I practice the things I'm not good at, and
Yeah.
because I practice and I try to figure things out. So I do things
Mm,
wrong so that I can understand how they're better and, that kind of thing. And it's not just, oh, look at this beautiful asana. It's much more, and this is, I would say, the biggest surprise about falling in love with yoga in general is that
mm.
event very quickly I learned, okay, I can get like emotional benefits from it, I can get physical benefits from it, but I did not understand the level of satisfaction that the practice would give me in like a creative artistic way. Like it satisfies me creatively, the problem solving, the looking at one asana from 5 different perspectives and doing it this way, doing it that way. There's just something so beautiful about that. And that nowadays really fuels me. That much more fuels me. And then the teaching kind of gets in there too, because
Yeah.
the same way I look at the different asanas, I mean, the same asana from different perspective, I'll think about, okay, well, how does this student how can I help this student with this type of body benefit in this asana, and what would I do differently, if somebody has a shoulder condition and I need to help them, or that sort of thing. And yeah, yeah.
No, but it's nice. I really relate with what you are sharing. I was thinking while you were sharing the practice room in Pune. Okay, because what happened is when we share through this media or whatever media, we actually select what we are sharing.
Yeah.
No, in that case, you say, okay, this portion of the practice or this one or that one, okay, and usually we don't show the messy part unless we laugh at it and I say, okay, I fall. I make okay, and you want to have fun, but okay, also that takes some ears and some ego away. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was going the first time to Pune, and you have that 3 hours to go to the practice room, and when there is people from everywhere, and also me, I was feeling like kind of now everybody will see me really what I'm doing, how I'm doing, and I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
actually going for perfection until then, and I wasn't enjoying. So I was like kind of practicing there, trying to be as perfect as I can imagine I can be, and then I was going back to my room and really practicing there,
Right.
free again.
Yeah.
Because, okay, now here I can or what, and that gave me time to reflect, and I say, actually, is this really, because actually it's one doing it to oneself, that's of asking for perfection or trying to be perfect. So that I like about what you share about the practice. How was for you the experience on the practice room in Pune?
Um, Similar. I mean, some of
Yeah.
those things come up, but in general, it is my favorite thing about going to the institute. I mean, to have that dedicated practice time and
Mm,
like a nice long chunk. People come from all over and really just practice, and you get to see all these amazing things that are getting done. And it's human nature. There's always but I think that there's the yoga in that too. Like I don't want that to take over. So it's a
exactly.
practice to like settle the internal dialogue a little bit. And yeah, I want to we should normalize messy practice, right? Messy practice is the way to go. Um, yeah.
But it's the way that we are learning, because from the I don't like to call them mistakes, because for me they're not mistakes, it's part of the learning process.
Hmm.
But yes, we are messy, we are not perfect, and we are still working it, and we should feel free. But it's ourselves allowing ourselves, because not like someone is imposing on us, but they say, okay, this is me, and this where I am with my practice. I'm still growing,
Yeah.
and thanks to that growing and that experience and that thing of being free to experience, to fail, to try again, then you enrich the way that okay, enrich, you say, because
Yeah.
sometimes I come up with words that they don't exist in
You're
English,
good.
but okay, it is become more tasty, the teaching experience, because
Absolutely.
you have been there from all the angles, and you have fallen, you have tried, you have this on that, then you have more than the intellect or what someone else say about the certain action or the certain way of doing exactly something. It is, no, I have tried many different ways, and the creative one. So actually me too, I'm having a lot of fun, and and I'm really enjoying it, and getting. I fall in love with yoga again, and that is
I
amazing.
can
Uh,
say that it's quite noticeable you're having fun with your practice. I think that comes across when you do share what you share on your account and stuff. So I love
yeah, mm,
that.
I really I love practicing. I love it, and the creativity, the artist, and see the many things that can come into a practice. It's actually nice. How often do you have a regular personal practice? Is something like washing your teeth? I really need to get into my room or whatever space you have and do my practice. How you settle your practice? Okay, tell us how you do it.
Mm. Well, I mean, at this stage, I feel I'm in some ways very fortunate because yoga is my life, right? I mean, everything I'm doing is about yoga in terms of work, and so a lot of my days are dedicated to, I mean, we do have the business side of running the studio and then
Mm,
also the practice, and I have some other teachers who teach at the studio as well, so we have some community type uh, learning that we do together. But because of that, I'm not as structured of my, like, there was a time in my life where I had to like make sure at this time I'm going to do a practice, blah, blah, blah. For me, I practice probably 5 times a week. I'd say probably 5 times a week. But it always just fits in. I mean, I prefer to practice in the morning.
mm,
Sometimes it'll be a little later in the day. I usually do at least one practice a week that is still geared towards my back. So
ah, okay.
sometimes I get like lower back pain, and then I also have a scoliosis. And so those two practices, um, they're slightly different in how I would approach those practices, but I usually do at least one a week that will target some of those issues. And then otherwise, I do, um, I like to think about, my favorite is to use the practice to feel a certain way. Like,
Mm,
can I turn to my practice um, as a toolbox, kind of? I'm feeling anxious, I'm stressed, I want to feel calmer. What am I going to practice? Or I'm feeling a little bit dull and I
mm,
want to pep myself up. What am I going to practice? So I'll approach the mat like that. And then a lot of other times it's that real messy practice that I that I was mentioning, where it's like I just want to figure something out. I just want to explore it. Sometimes I take inspiration from one of my students. I see, okay, this student is really struggling with her forward bending. I'm just gonna like play on my
mm,
mat and figure things
mm,
out and like see where it takes me. And yeah, and then there's a couple of poses that are a little bit out of reach that I still, goal oriented. I do have fun with some arm balances, and I try to like those ones make me feel young again and go with that.
I
So
love arm balances. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I was that. But it is nice, yes, when we use our personal practice to work on ourselves. Sometimes could be an asana, sometimes could be like the other day I was feeling really down, sad. I don't know, emotions that happen, and I say, okay, I'm going to practice now to see how it is to practice feeling down and don't want to do anything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes people come to your practice in that way.
Yep.
Okay, what works on them is like exploring in yourself all the feelings or the pain. But what I was thinking it is, okay, having gone through and still living with a back issue, okay, and where yoga has helped you to have a quality life, learn a lot. Uh, what will you say were the asanas or practices that brought you more awareness about your back, your postural habits, or emotions that actually impact in your back, and through the yoga practice you are able to to settle or to balance. I don't know if I help you with the healing or easing the pain or uh, I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
clear or let's
I
see.
think so.
Okay,
I think so.
great.
So I would say starting out, the fundamentals of Tadasana, like leg, how to use the feet,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to use the feet, how to spread the toes, and how to access the leg. So thighs, knees, lower leg, the fact that the upper leg can move differently than the lower leg,
Mm-hmm.
really understanding the standing poses. I mean, this was just intro to Iyengar yoga. I mean, it was the stuff that we did at the beginning, but that work was transformative for my back. I mean, learning how to use my legs was major, major. So I would say for the first number of years, the standing poses really contributed a lot to stabilizing the base of my spine, right? So legs into the hip socket, that sort of thing. Trikonasana, crossover with a crossed over stance, um, or yeah, the external Virabhadrasana, too kind of exaggerated also with the crossed over stance, that type of deep hip access. So that stuff, the standing poses, I would say was phase one. That really made an impact. And then in terms of the scoliosis, that I sort of think of, like I said, sort of like two not related but separate issues. And so standing poses and strong leg work is one aspect. And then on the scoliosis side, anything with traction, like
Mm,
Adho Mukha Svanasana feels so good. Anything that I can get that elongation, even twisting, the lift and turning and understanding kind of the differences right side and left. The scoliosis really, because it's so it inside, to me it feels so obvious the differences right and left. It really taught me a lot. Like it taught me how to be, it sort of forced me to be sensitive
yes,
probably sooner than I would have been otherwise, right? Because it gave me that feedback. um, so yeah, Adho Mukha Svanasana, anything with length like Adho Mukha Virasana, reaching forward, Chair Bharadvajasana, Uttita Marichiasana. Um, and I do love full arm balance and Shirshasana. Like Sarvangasana was always really, really hard on my back, but once I had the strength to go up for headstand, I love it. And that one gave me the mental benefits. Like there's absolutely nothing that compares. I know not everyone can relate to this, but I would go up for 10 minutes in headstand. It like it's a boon for my day. I come down, there's no other feeling like it. It just
I
changes
know.
my mental state right away.
I
Um,
know, I know. And
yeah.
finally, I'm getting it in Sarvangasana because for me, I was having like an affair, I say, with Shirshasana. I was like,
Hmm.
no. And Sarvangasana,
Yeah,
and
same.
now I'm actually getting in love with it. I have a very good friend that she used to tell me that she could fall asleep in Sarvangasana. I
Mm,
look at her and say, "You are crazy.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
no way I ever going to feel that." And okay, I'm not getting asleep. Okay, I'm not that comfortable, but I like it.
But you get
And,
it.
and
Yeah.
and it is a process. So tell me, Stephanie, going back to you, which are the asanas that challenge more your back, where you really have to be aware and you know when you are going in a car and the road is sleepy and you really have to drive. Okay, you will continue with the drive, but you know that you have to be extra careful. Which are the asanas
Mm.
that take you into that?
For me, back bends were the ones that were most difficult. Forward bending always came relatively easily, like naturally. Yeah, I know I have certain areas of stiffness, but for the most part, I'm relatively flexible. And forward bending never bothered my back, but going backwards did. The prone back bends like Salabhasana,
Mm,
Bhujangasana, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, those ones were the worst. Yeah, really
but
bad. And I do remember at the beginning, like being in a class, so it'd be in a general class and it being backbend week. And, you go through the backbends and like there's always like this kind of like you can feel the excitement in the class afterwards. Like there's certain energy after a backbending class. And I remember thinking, like, am I ever gonna feel like these guys? Like, like it just like I'm never happy at the end of a backbend class. I didn't feel good. And sure enough, like I do. I love like now I still have to be careful. There's certain asanas I have to be careful. I know how to work, but I get it. Like it's kind of like a little bit what you're saying, I think, with Sarvangasana. Like you have a taste of it. You know the fruit that's there. And same with backbending. So now I feel like backbending is the kind of like the next frontier. It's like that next layer of the onion that I can peel off in my personal practice. I think it has a lot to offer me, and I'm now kind of at a place where it makes sense. I'm healthy enough to like go in there and try things and see where it can take me. So,
And
um,
for the
yeah.
practice of back bends, okay, I was going to actually ask you about which is your seat belt, and in which action is the seat belt to protect your back while you are into practicing back bends. May I explain myself?
Mm,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah. I think it might change depending on the asana. I mean, there's definitely like accessing that sort of middle buttock area, like
Mm,
the thighs going back, the buttock going forward, that's challenging for me to access in the back bending poses. And so I do focus quite a lot on that and trying to open up the front of my groin area, stretch the front of the quad, so that all that I think is related. Um, I used to I used to really put a lot of emphasis on the turning the legs, like turning the toes in, remember
uh-huh.
toes in, heels out.
Yes.
Because when I first started, um, and I learned that just standing in Tadasana, turn your toes in, I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, like standing at the subway, at the bus stop, at the grocery store, turn the toes in, heels out would give me such relief. It just created space in my lower back. And it was huge. It was really huge. But interestingly, like what works at one point doesn't, is not your you change, and your embodied experience also changes. And so now, as I'm more, I don't know, it's more refined, my practice now, as opposed to how it was 15 years ago. Now I'm understanding, like, I need to give myself space in some of these poses. So when I finally had a teacher that said, why are you keeping your knees, like, why are you turning your thighs so far in Urdhva Dhanurasana? Like, let the knees go out a little bit. Again, blew my mind, like I could have freedom and I could lift and I could, so to have that, and this kind of goes back to what I said about knowing the rules, breaking the
Yes,
rules. Like, we have to
exactly.
understand our structure. What works for
Yes.
one may not work for
For
others, and
others, yes.
there's limits. So that's been an area of growth. Like, and with scoliosis too, you have to understand, like, where are you compressed and where can you provide space. So um, vertical space, horizontal space, all these kinds of things. So
Great. And
yeah,
now you
yeah.
see that in our method, okay, the method that we practice and share, props and adjustments are could be considered like the treasures also, some of the
Yeah,
treasures of this.
tools of the
How are you?
trade.
Yes. How are you feeling and going through or living with an issue of your in your back? How you feel about props and adjustment, props and no adjustment, adjustment and no props? How are you and your experience with it?
Adjustment, is that what you're saying? Props and adjusting, like with hands?
With hands or verbally, okay, even when we adjust, what you
Hmm.
prefer, the manual adjustments or the verbal ones, or both of them,
Yeah,
which one help you
yeah,
better understand, integrate, move deeper?
yeah. um, I think as teachers and practitioners, we have everything you just mentioned. We have those tools at our disposal, and they're super powerful and can be really, really helpful and transformative. But just like any tool, can be used inappropriately.
Mm,
And I feel like I've had positive and negative experiences with all of them, right?
okay.
So with props,
Mm,
I love props. I love the creativity of props, but I don't like when the props are used like as a gimmick. You know, sometimes you can get too, or not you, or but like even myself, like the way that I try to think about props is, why am I using it and what is it teaching me? Because
Mm,
it is always a tool. It's not just some
yes.
funky presentation. That can be fine. It can be fun. Try something new. But at the end of the day, I always like to compare, okay, well, this is the classical asana. This is what I've just changed it to. Why? What did I learn? How is it providing me with a new perspective? So it's not gimmicky. And even like with teaching, and you know, if I'm working with some of the newer teachers, you anytime you insert a prop, you need to know why. What is reference the prop and understand why and make sure that that's conveyed. And I think if you use that as an underlying principle, then there's just so much integrity to the use of props. And then with adjusting, um, adjusting is interesting, because I have definitely had some of my most memorable, favorite moments in practice when I've been with a teacher who I trust, who's helped me into a pose, and or a yoga friend, even, you know, practicing with a friend and we help each other. Um, but I have noticed over the years, and I have wondered if it is because I generally, you know, I'm coming to the practice with a vulnerability,
Mm,
but people, the tendency, people can be really aggressive with their hands. Like it, I don't enjoy when someone's like yanking you into position, or, you know, you
mm,
never know. I mean, I present as a healthy, strong person, so I'm not going to go to a class and announce all my problems. But I also, like, there's an expectation that you're not going to come around and like twist me into two. Like, so there needs to be there's some interesting
but I get
I don't
in.
know,
Yeah,
politics,
it's
trust, yeah, like protocols that need to
sensibility,
be in place.
and
Yeah,
sensibility,
sensitivity,
yeah,
sensibilities,
yeah,
yeah,
sensitivity, yes, yeah, in the way that you approach the person that you're going to adjust, definitely, especially if you don't know that person.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Like, yeah, my personal experience, I have been hurt, you say, no? Yes, or injured, uh, with adjustment by another teacher that didn't know me, okay? And yeah,
mm,
so it is also a very good learning process for me as a teacher, because then I really know what never to do. Okay,
yeah,
yes, how
yeah,
never to touch someone, or but because adjustments, properly done, manual, it actually can help you a lot
yeah,
in the
I
understanding, in
agree.
the integration of the action, and the benefit of the asana. And yes, but it's not just touching for touching, or touching if you are not sure of what you are doing. Okay, you
Yeah,
have to, you also listen with your hands, feel
yeah,
with your hands the energy to where the person can go or not. Even we can sometimes I do no, but it is even the way that you are doing this
hmm.
has to have certain touch. And
And it's it's such an art, like,
yes,
and that's
yes.
something that I see when I go to the when I go to Pune at the institute. I mean, the level of dexterity in their in the the teachers there, like their fingers, their toes, and the way that they're
Mm,
helping, the way they use their whole bodies to help one another in the practice hall. I mean, it's incredible, and it really is an art to be able to both know how to use your limbs, but then be in sync enough with the other person to know how
exactly.
hard, how not hard, you know, when it's appropriate to read their energy, you know. So there's a lot there, and I think it also that also speaks to how complex and special the yoga student yoga teacher relationship is,
Yes, it's true.
because it's really built on trust, and that trust has to be nurtured and developed. and kind of some of these unspoken things come up in that process of developing that trust.
It's true.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
how does has impact in this new way of teaching that is online? Which
Mm,
okay, because okay, one thing is having the students close to you where you can make some adjustments, manual or use the prop. But then now when we are online, what have changed for you, or what have has been a gift? You say I don't know how to formulate the question, but okay, things change when we move online.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually now our student is the other way, or we are the student in this side of the room, no? And how what have changed for you?
I think that shifting my teaching online when the pandemic hit, um, was ultimately a good thing. I mean, I think it contributed to my development as a teacher. I think it forced me to be even more clear with my teaching. Um, and it also forced a little bit of creativity, because the reality of teaching online is it's not the same as teaching in person. And so if you're going to treat it exactly the same, I don't think you're going to be as effective. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have to kind of develop a bit of a style, like a change in style. Okay, when I teach live stream, this is how I teach. Um, and I found it to be a little bit of a almost like a hybrid between self practice and a full class. You know, there it could be, of course, I give instructions and I look and tell people what to do and that sort of thing. But there's just a little bit more room for openness and freedom. Like, try this, now compare, do, that sort of thing. Whereas I might approach that differently in person. Um, that said, I'm not teaching live stream anymore. I decided more people are interested in person in my community, so I'm mainly doing in person, and then I do offer on demand, like recorded classes. So I
Okay.
do for
Mm.
YouTube. I have a YouTube channel I put up there, and then I have the full classes that I offer to my international students or whatever. Um, and that's also like a whole other format. Like, teaching to somebody when there's nobody there is a very different experience than teaching
Yes,
to
and
a
mm, but okay, you record the classes, but what is your focus? Because you are not seeing the practice of the person that is practicing with your video,
yeah,
and you're not
yeah,
seeing the progress. So
right.
it changed a
It
lot.
changes.
Like for me, I don't like when people ask me for recorded classes. I don't. Okay, I prefer
Yeah,
to see, even if
yeah,
it is online, because I say okay, I know I'm communicating, or if it will tell me if I need to send to change something in my approach of teaching because it's not reaching and all that. How is it for you? Do you have any feedback and knowing okay, this is the way I'm going?
yeah. It's the it's a little, it's throwing it onto the student as far as responsibility. And so they have to be accountable. They have to be accountable
Hmm.
for making good decisions for themselves on the mat. Obviously, I can't be aware of every single person who's going to watch the recording or watch the YouTube video for that matter. Um, I try to present information that's relatively accessible, and if it's more advanced, I try to make mention of that. Um, but we have to trust that people are they make good decisions. I mean, it's solid teaching, and they have to decide whether they're at that appropriate at that stage.
No, yeah.
I mean, I think like doing a home practice is so challenging for people, that the recorded classes can give people this like in between step. Like, at least they're not being spoon fed every single thing. They still have to show up without, the teacher giving them a pat on the back for showing up. Like they just do the recording. And my hope is that they just use it as a starting off point. You know, they do like half a class and then they get interested in something and do something else, like take the pose in a different direction. I think the people who do the recordings tend to be my more experienced students. So when I get
Yeah, yeah.
questions, if people send in,
Yeah, I was
it's
just
usually in that
curious. Yeah.
direction. Hmm.
Yeah, I was just curious about it because, okay, me, I'm not someone that get inclined also to take recorded classes. In that case, yes, I was curious. Okay, you answer. Yeah, it's okay because actually, the responsibility, if for the one that practice, even when they come to your class or they're taking an online class, the decision, the responsibility lies with the student also, no, because it is
Yeah,
his or
absolutely.
her body, and they decide what to do, what not to do, and they have to have um, develop an awareness with their body, because even if the teacher has the best intentions, we are not feeling what they're feeling, okay, and they have to learn to say no when they're feeling
Yeah,
it is no, or say yes, fine, I can try, or this is my limit today. And that is important, okay,
yeah,
that they empower themselves and know that they at the end they're still responsible because it's their body, their practice. So
yeah.
in that case, yeah, I agree with you, and thanks for sharing. Which is your favorite yoga or philosophy book?
Mm.
Ah, I'm changing from what? Yeah.
Um, well, I can actually, I have a book here. I
Let's
have,
see.
I have, I literally just started it, but I'm excited about it, so I may as well show this one.
Hmm.
Um, happens to, can you see it?
Yeah, I can't read
Yeah.
what it say, but
It
okay, I
says
see the
it's
open.
called Yoga and Alignment from the
Okay,
Upanishads to BKS Iyengar. And it's by um, a teacher named Geeta Beshgard. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong, but
okay.
and Jillian McCann. And so, yeah, this is, I mean, it's a pretty new book, I believe, like published recent pretty recently. And I've been sort of craving um, a little bit more access to the philosophy, but in a modern way. So I mean,
Yeah,
I've worked with BKS Iyengar's books, and the nuggets, the gems. There's so much in there, but I have also been just kind of starting to veer a little bit outside of the main text in Iyengar Yoga, just to see what else we can, what else, how else I can make sense of all these, existential concepts.
me too, me too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It is like I think history is good. All teachers are good, but there is evolution.
yeah, and modern day
And
context for
yes,
sure.
in modern day context and different needs, okay, and not always work. It's nice to know them, but also to get upgraded,
Yeah,
okay? And yes, I also like to read new books, new philosophy, new thinkers, and even to oneself, no? Yes, 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 definitely. Yeah. Just curious about it. Anything that you would like to share, Stephanie? Because we have a wonderful hour. Okay, has fly. I
yeah.
really enjoy talking to you. But anything else that you would like to share about your yoga, your experience, yoga in Canada, or I don't know, whatever you feel.
Um, I I don't really have anything else to say, but it was really fun to chat with you. Nice to connect and finally have a conversation, and I feel like we've been friends forever. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking that I'm excited in these tertulias because you see, it is one thing is knowing the person, knowing, no, through whatever they're sharing and all that, and actually having a chat and no, man, this is my cat,
Yeah.
but, or having a chat and getting to know the life, the person behind the post because I never knew about your back injury, and I say, wow. Because seeing your practice, your strength and all that, I really believe in the healing process of yoga because I'm lucky. I never have a big injury or some nothing like that, no. But I say, wow, yeah, my respect for yoga, my respect to you and your practice, and please keep sharing because I love your material.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you
yeah, I
so
was telling you,
much.
your instructions are clear, even for someone that is not taking your classes. This 1 minute, 40 minute video that you share, the actions, everything is so clear that I say, wow, amazing. So anyone that is watching or will watch this later, I actually recommend them to go to your or to YouTube or to your Instagram because there they can find wonderful material.
Thank you so much. That the fact that you find it clear and relatable makes me very
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, I do. I'm very honest with that. Yeah. So it was really, really a pleasure talking to you. Hope we will do this again soon. Okay. But it was really, really a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
so
much.
much.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Take care.
Enjoy. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.